So the easiest way to get into the platform UI is to open up a browser and in the address bar type in platform.adobe.com. There are a number of other ways you can get to the UI, but this is probably the most straightforward. So we'll hit enter and type in our email address and click continue. Now I'm going to go with personal account because the ID that I have is an Adobe ID. Most of you will probably have an Adobe ID for your login, but some of you might have an enterprise ID or even a federated ID. So knowing what type of login you have is important. I'm going to go with personal ID and then I'll type in my password. And once I've got my password in, I'm going to click continue. And that brings us into the platform UI. The very next thing I recommend doing is checking what org you are logged into here. Now, for many of you, you may have just a single org, although some companies may have multiple orgs or instances, we might call it. And then you might also have instances for other Adobe products, solutions that were created under their own org. So here you can see in training I've got quite a few different possible selections I can make. I'm going to go with this one here, but definitely check that and know which instance is right for your company. So up here we have our title bar, we've got production, our production environment. Come back to that in just a moment and talk about sandboxes, which many of you may also have. Landed here on the home page, and we have these different categories of features and tools over here on the left hand side. Let me just collapse these up right quick. They open up turned on, but now I can go through them kind of one by one and take a look at them, and it's a little clearer as to what I'm clicking on. So here on the home page, we get a bit of a summary. You can see how many data sets, profiles that have been created, segments, destinations, and there's other additional information down lower, and then links to additional help tools there. You also have the question mark up in the upper right that you can click and get to various documentation, tutorials, and so forth, videos, and down here API references. So then you have the 9 dots right here. I'll click on those. And this, if we had logged in another way, we could have gotten to platform from here. And here you can see, we can get to the offers tool, journey orchestration, and journey analytics, audience manager, and so forth. Whatever other features and product solutions you have turned on, you can get to here. And then down here is the admin console. I'm not going to really get into that today, but just to show you where that is. So let me just kind of point out that on the left-hand side, we have this sidebar, which has these different workspaces, we'll call them, or categories of tools. And then you have the main screen here. I'm going to go to workflows, and here we have some different workflows that can walk us through for data ingestion, down here for creating machine learning models. If I click on, say, one of these for data ingestion, I get now another panel over on the far right. And here I can click launch to launch that. And this will pop up regularly. You can click don't show again, but this is a disclaimer that essentially is saying that you're responsible for what happens with your data and your data governance. I'm going to close that. I'm going to not turn it off because I want to keep it available and have you see it every time it comes up. Well, if I follow through this workflow, which we actually will later on, I can ingest CSV data into a data set in Platform. But let me go back here, and by the way, notice we get the breadcrumb trail up here, so I could go back to workflows here and take a look and choose other workflows. Or I can come back over and click on the category workflows. The next workspace or category down is connections. And here you can see I've got data sources, that's what this is about, data, and destinations. And let me just click on sources right quick. And we can see the various sources. Here I'm looking at all sources. I've got a little search tool here. I could come down here under different categories. So for CRM, it's going to identify certain CRM tools. And one of the things that you'll find is that some of these different connectors will be available under different categories. So be aware of that. The search tool, again, is very helpful if you know of a specific, in this case, data source that you want to connect to. Up at the top, we have some different tabs. So have my accounts here where I have created connections to different data sources. Have data flows, which is going to give me a image here of a data flow that has been searched or been created here. We've ingested this number. We've had 0 records fail. And so let me go back on the sources. And then finally the system view, which will indicate visually the sources that you're bringing data in from into Platform. And over on the far left now, we've got our destinations. Again, it defaults to the catalog tab where I could do a search for all of any particular destination that I wanted to set up a connection to. And then again, over on the side, we have different categories of these destinations. Once again, the Accounts tab, the Browse tab, and here for this particular instance, none of that is set up, and then a system view, and we've got the ones that have been set up here for sending data out of Platform and into these other systems. The next grouping here in the left is customer, and I'm going to close up my connections. Oops, I'm still on the destination, so it's staying open. But let me come down here to customer. I'm going to expand that. And here is some really important features, particularly this one, profiles. Well, profiles and segments, actually. So profiles are where we have brought together data from multiple sources, multiple channels perhaps, and combined them into an identity profile. And a little bit later on, we're going to come in and see how we've brought data in and how that profile gets created for the data that we've brought in. merge policies right here. So this is going to say how the data is merged. And here notice we've got time-based. And this has to do with what on what basis does, let's say you have a cookie ID, which cookie ID is going to be the primary one if you've got multiple cookie IDs associated with a particular individual. And I can click time-based here and you can see we have this, but I could change this to a different type of determination, and you have a little workflow here that you go through for doing that. Right here's the union schema. I'll click on that. And this is going to be a schema, so when you have data from different channels, that data goes into different data sets, and then they each have their own schema. Here, this schema is showing how that data from different data sets will be combined into this unified profile data set. Close on that. And notice I got the next button because we'd be working through a workflow here for that. I'm going to go back to profiles, and then I can also get to that union schema from this tab here. So I have several different ways of getting to this union schema. The union schema will be set up typically on your implementation, and what it will do is it'll bring together the important data. For example, from a call center, maybe you bring in the mobile number, and from a website you bring in a cookie ID, but maybe they register, and so now we can use a different type of identifier such as an email. And we'll talk a bit more later on about how these in one of the modules about how the different data gets connected up. That's enough, I think, for that right now.